Yo, what is up, Eddie team? Austin back again, and we're with a different look because this is one of the first podcasts on the Austin Done on Vlogs channel, and I'm excited to announce one of our first guests, no other than
Hey.
Mr. Casey Zander. You have a deep understanding of just female psychology, female nature, Backend Game, which we'll talk about, and just overall how to keep a woman in your life. I talk a lot about Frontend Game.
These are terms too that I've used loosely on my YouTube channel, but the longer I do this for, the more I realize like the critical importance of understanding like the differences, how front end and back, like it's completely opposite skill sets for guys.
How would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I would say dating coach or relationship coach or masculinity coach in like the purest form. Like I try to use as much presentation style stuff like on my marker board to like actually teach guys step by step. I think a lot of guys are very logical brained, or for a lot of men, if you don't lay shit out A, B, C, D all the way through Z, if there's any nuance or gray area, I've found that there's cause for confusion a lot of times. So I try to break down everything in the purest form, step by step, logically for dudes so they can get a good grasp on it.
That makes sense because even me myself, even in school, I've always been a visual learner. So just watching your videos alone, I'm like, okay, when you lay it out instead of just speaking,
Yeah.
it kind of makes more sense. But
Yeah.
but getting into the first topic, and that is none of this would exist in terms of the topics, in terms of what we both talk about, if it wasn't for the dreaded female nature. So in your opinion, why do you believe female nature is important for men to learn? And how did you even came across this stuff yourself?
It's important because I think it's like the only skill that if a man doesn't master, there's always something lagging. Like I think guys like an element of control, like you want to have an element of control over your life. And when you don't have control, it's like the worst feeling because then you just have a sense of like hopelessness or loss of control, and that's like probably the opposite of feeling masculine and powerful. Because
Yeah.
then like if you don't have that control over your relationships, there's no way you can have a sense of strength. It's like everything's left to chance. All men, you have to go through years and ups and downs and trials and tribulations, and like you have to go through the blood, sweat, and tears of dating to figure like this shit out. And the longer you do it, the better you get at it.
That's true. And some guys get lucky with finding the right woman, and the other guys don't. I feel like most guys discover this sort of content on the internet is from the fact that they've been through negative situations. Otherwise, the other guys are living in bliss, aka the blue pillars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even those guys will be jaded at some point. Like it depends how soon you start dating, but every guy is forced to learn this.
Absolutely. Now, have you heard of the whole blue pill, red pill, black pill sort of terminologies, and where do you classify yourself as in terms of if you do at all?
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, everyone's heard of them. And black pill, I only heard of that recently. So refresh me. That's the statement that looks is the only thing that matters. Is that correct?
From the front end perspective, black pill says that nothing else matters until the woman is attracted to you, and that's why. And looks is the highest determinants of that. Your
Yeah. See,
physical attractiveness.
I don't consider myself any of them to be honest, because through my own experience, I've found my own ways, I guess you could say. But I also don't think it's good to believe things in absolutes either.
Hmm.
Like I think if a guy follows one, if you want to call it theory, or if you want to call it one specific way of living, once you become identified with a specific type or a specific concept and there's no room for fluctuation, I don't think that that's good either, because you're rigid then, you know.
Yeah, so you're saying there's a lot more gray areas instead of like absolutes in terms of thinkings and ideologies and things like that.
Yeah, 100%, because what like the thing is when a guy starts dating, a lot of things, like the red pill a lot of times with the female nature concepts in the purest form is true, but if all of the things work in practicality, it 100% depends on where you're at in the interactions and in the relationships with women. There's a lot of guys who I've met who've bought into certain concepts and have had it completely backfire, and we've all seen guys too use quote unquote blue pill concepts and win over girls from time to time too, and have been in relationships. So at some point, spiteful female nature can come into play. But at the same time, I wouldn't consider myself a specific ideology or a specific pill color. No.
That makes sense. Now, with me myself, for the longest time, I've considered myself more red pill. But even looking deeper into that, I've learned that a lot of red pill teachings are rooted within evolutionary psychology. Have you
Right.
studied or seen any evolutionary psychology sort of theories or even rules?
Yeah, I've read books on like Audible and stuff over the years, but I think there's no better teacher than actually getting out in the field and actually getting out and like actually dating women or having girlfriends. Like one of the things I've told guys on my channel is like my experience with like house parties or going out a lot or even like bar game from ages like 19 to like 23, you're not going to learn more raw, pure forms of female nature than when you go out like that. I mean,
Mm,
I think real life experience is the best teacher, you know? So
yeah.
we like books and stuff are good, but if you don't put shit into play when it comes to real life practicality, it's hard to implement.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I relate that to every area of life actually. I try not to like read too many theories or binge watch even content. I like to go out there, practice, and implement because trial and error is your greatest learning lesson overall in every aspect.
Yeah, of course. So you're the same age as me though, right? You're 27?
Yeah, I'm
Or
27.
yeah. So you agree like your times you've like went out, that's when you've learned the most.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, because I've also improved myself as a man, like physically in all areas of life, I
Yeah.
see where every pill or ideology gets their takes from. Like I understand why the black pill says certain things because me being an attractive man, I've experienced how women act when they view a man as like a 9 plus versus when
Right.
they view a man as like a 6 or 7. The amount of
Right.
hoops he has to go through versus the ones I have to go through. Right.
Yeah, well, and that's why too. I kind of have the same philosophy as you. Like, I think it's good to improve on every area in your life because what you'll see guys do is they'll bank on a specific trait that they have that's maxed out. But the problem is if other areas aren't, they may have to work harder sometimes to get that date or to get the right reaction out of that girl that they're wanting. So all girls look for different things, right? Sometimes you can win a woman over through looks, right? And she's hot for you and she wants you like that sexually. Dude, other times you got to win a woman over with your personality. There's some women out there who they're purely looking for established men who have money. And like you don't know what you're going to run into. Now, not to be too long winded with this, but what I've found in my own personal opinion is I've found that personality and charisma, if you can win a woman over that way, where she's emotionally invested in you, keep in mind, I consider that far different than sexually invested in you. If you can get a woman deep down emotionally invested in you through personality, charisma, charm, like she likes you, that's the purest form of game I've found.
Now, moving deeper into that, have you heard of the term genuine desire? Burning
Yep,
genuine desire.
of course, yeah.
What do you believe is the purest form of genuine desire? For me, for
The
example, I believe looks, at least initially, looks and a physical attraction is the purest form of genuine desire.
Yeah, and it depends. So it depends where you're at. Are we looking at how? And it depends what end goal we're optimizing for. Is it that we're trying to hook this woman into love for 5 years straight, or is it that we're trying to get her into bed? See, that's the thing. Is a lot of when I talk about front end versus back end game, the things that women look for at different points, depending on the time duration that they're with a man, I think dictates what they're weighing into consideration as far as what they value.
Yeah, that makes
Do
sense.
you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even a man's dating strategy, like if a guy is trying to get a girlfriend versus a guy trying to sleep with as many women as possible, he
Yep.
might have to have slightly different leveraging points, a part of his dating arsenal in order to get what he wants out of the interaction. You know?
Yeah. So genuine desire from just a looks perspective when it comes to sex, yeah, I'd probably say that and personality weighs in pretty heavy. Probably even more so just looks, right? If you're lean or if you're jacked or if you're good looking, it's going to be easier for her to view you as a sexual option right away. I mean, however, if it comes to retaining women, I mean, I personally think that there's going to be that, then she's going to start to look at deeper levels of that guy's personality for if she chooses to emotionally invest in them or not.
That makes sense.
You know,
Now,
like, go ahead. I'll start rambling.
no, please remember what you had to
Well,
say.
no, when I get on this shit, sometimes I can't shut up about it. So, like, one of the things that I disagree with the red pill pretty heavily is that, from what I've seen from clients and like people who I've worked with and guys in the comment section, what I have found is oftentimes like guys have a very hard time understanding that getting a woman's sexual investment is 100% different from getting her emotional investment. And emotional investment and attachments only come from personality, right? Like if you want that woman, like here's the thing. One of the greatest you ever see old Patrice O'Neill stand up?
No, I haven't. It's
Do you
crazy to
know
say that. I know who it
do you
is
know
though.
okay, Patrice O'Neill, one of the best ways I've ever heard this demonstrated or executed is he said, men fall in love from the bottom up, right? Like sex first, and eventually you get to know the woman. Women fall in love from the top down. So, since women can get sex anywhere, oftentimes that's the lowest rung priority that she's looking at when she decides if she wants to emotionally invest in a man. So, women look at the internal, right? Women look at the person as a whole. Women look at who is this guy and what is he interested in? Why is he interested in that? How many layers of him can I peel back over the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and slowly figure him out? Which is where then, if you want to retain a woman, the element of mystery is so important. You know, so one of the sayings I use is like, the hotter the flame, the shorter the burn, is what I found. The more intimate you are with a woman, sexually active with a woman, the more she knows about you at a quicker pace, even though things are hot in the beginning. Those are typically the relationships that fizzle out fastest. So it's like a balancing act. And that's why I think it's extremely important for men to grasp the differences between what is true front end game, what is back end game, how do we tie the two together, and what are the personality traits women look for. But this took me like 10 solid years to figure out. So this isn't like an overnight thing for guys, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. And that was a good example you gave there. Now, looking deeper into front end versus back end game, can you kind of describe, based on your experience, which one is harder for guys to implement and learn?
In my opinion, it oftentimes, this is going to be a really weird example, and this is going to sound weird, but it depends how sanitized they were in their childhood. So what I mean by that is, if you were the star quarterback, or if you were the guy who went to house parties, you were the guy who went to frat parties, you were the guy who maybe dabbled in some rebel type or some behavior that was outlandish or scandalous in your youth, meaning high school and college, those guys typically understand how to wheel a woman or how to win her over, like how to have proper game on the front end. Now, those guys a lot of times struggle on the back end and vice versa. So I've also seen guys who didn't have a party phase, guys who never had a house party phase. They didn't go out much. They didn't have a social circle of cool friends who were interacting with women. Those guys are typically great when it comes to relationships, but a lot of times they are pretty bad at using charisma and game and personality to win a woman over.
So
I found it depends on childhood and what type of environment you grew up in.
gotcha. That's very interesting. I never saw it from that perspective, but it actually does make sense in terms
Yeah.
of somebody's upbringing.
I had a lot of friends that were either athletes. I had a lot of friends who were, as I got older, guys who were in fraternities. I would not trade ages 19 to 23 for anything. I mean, I threw a lot of house parties growing up, shop parties growing up. You will learn more about game and personality in that environment than you ever will trying to just like read books or shit like that. You know, so a lot of times not to ramble, but a lot of times I've found that if guys are very cookie cutter by the book, or they're very corporate, meaning they clock in, they clock out, they're used to HR culture, those are the guys who, since they're not rough around the edges, it's harder for them to learn how to go out to start to attract more women on the front end. I hope this makes sense.
No, it definitely does, and I think it makes sense to everybody listening too. Now, now, a guy who is really good on the front end game and the back end game, would you consider this
Ooh,
a,
that's
hi-
hard.
a high
Yeah.
value man, a player?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
what would you consider this man?
I mean, I don't even know if I consider that a player. For a woman, that's heartbreak central.
Heartbreak for the woman.
Yeah, for a woman, that's heartbreak central, because so that's the thing too. Like okay, so there's another thing I disagree with the red pill. The red pill explains you want to be as alpha as possible. I disagree. I think that, since if you look at woman's hypergamy and the dual mating strategy, alpha versus beta, or alpha seed, beta need, or beta long-term provisioning, alpha short-term, good genetics for, like, he's hot, I want him, is her mindset. You need both sides of the coin. And that's where they're equally as important. They're 50-50, right? It's like, it's not one is better than the other. And a woman looks at both of them truthfully as masculinity and masculinity traits. So if you're a man who you have wheels, you have riz, you have game, right? And as she gets to know more about you, you can lead her emotionally, you lead her spiritually, you're a masculine man, you have life set up in frame, you know how to pass tests, right? You don't get moved off center if she acts bad or has poor behavior. Yeah, that's heartbreak central for a woman. She'll never leave you.
That's what they call the alpha widow.
The
Have
alpha
you heard that
widow.
term?
I have, yeah. And that's why they're equally as important. Like,
Hmm.
you need both. You really do. And a lot of times I think some of the beta traits are a bit shamed on the internet. Man, a lot of times what you'll see in real life practicality, especially guys who have girlfriends, sometimes those are the traits where there's that level of comfort, there's that level of familiarity, there's that level where she feels safe with him, there's that level where she still can see herself eating spaghetti in bed and watching Netflix with him occasionally. That builds trust, right? So where a guy might be super attractive, super alpha, super dominant, that's super fucking intimidating to women.
Hmm.
And a lot of times what women look for is their long-term strategy, right? Who they're going to pair with. They're looking at, who can I see myself with in the future at times, right? So sometimes you're going to watch guys, you're like, man, if you ever see a guy and you're like, how did he get her? Right? Or you watch a guy or a woman sleep with a guy who you look at him and you're like, man, he doesn't look alpha, or that's not a textbook Chad. That's how that happens, is if you can get that girl to invest in that guy emotionally, typically things can happen for him quicker. And I'll tell you what too, I have a tendency to ramble, so if I go off too much, bro, tell me to shut the fuck up, because sometimes I'll go too much, man.
No, no, man. This is what this is for. I want to dig deeper into your mindset and the way you think about things. And I think so far has been quite interesting. Even that part about the duality between beta and alpha, how
Yeah.
having both those things work synergetically in a lot of cases,
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of a deeper look into physical attraction, because I've studied like physical attraction and all that stuff. And a lot of guys think like the alpha characteristics physically is what a lot of women
Mm-hmm.
are attracted to, but it's actually a combination of those masculine characteristics with feminine that actually makes somebody like attractive. That's the Chad or Tyrone sort of zone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that's where too, like, dude, until a guy watches, until a guy sees live and in the flesh, right, another guy wheel a chick at a bar, right? Or run game on a girl at a house party where they're playing games and she's bubbly and there's that flirtatious vibe. For guys who aren't used to doing that or demonstrating that, it's something that all guys will still know it when they see it. And you
Mm-hmm.
watch her open up, you watch her drop that guard, you watch her anxiety drop, you watch her start to smile, and then it's like instantly you can see that she's captivated by him. That is a skill in and of itself. And I wholeheartedly believe, here's where me and you might differ a little bit. when a guy has that skill of charisma, or when a guy has that skill of winning that girl over and understanding how they work that way, and like she can be with him for a few minutes and think, damn, I really like him. That guy can do that at 6% body fat or 20. A lot of times you could put that guy in a $5 tank top from TJ Maxx or a decked out Armani suit with Louis Vuitton. It doesn't matter. Because in the purest form, when you can win a woman over like that, that is front end game
That makes
in and of
sense.
itself.
And where my questions with that would be, I've seen, you know, the relationships where it's like, how did he get her, sort of, and you explained it, and that makes sense. But I do feel like, in terms of physical attraction, the guy at 20% body fat would or does have to work a little bit more, jump through more hoops, go on more dates, kind of win her over, versus a guy who she's initially highly physically attracted to. Even if he still had that charisma, that talk game, whatever,
Yeah.
it's just easier.
Yeah.
Less headaches, less BS. She probably flaked on the guy twice, and you know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I also think it depends what the guy's end goal is. So I don't just want the sex. In fact, truthfully, I could give a fuck about the sex. I want her to love me, adore me, and respect me. Like that is the level. Because what I found is, if you want to retain a woman, right, and this is where you'd get into back-end game, those are the skills needed. So it depends what the guy's end goal is.
So based on that context, do you not follow the 3-date rule that the red pill teaches? So the woman is not giving out, or it's not escalating within 3 dates. You basically cut your losses. Would you extend that?
I would probably actually agree with that. A lot of times, I think if the guy's front end is dialed in good enough, a lot of times she'll even sleep with him same day or same night, or it will get almost, to that point,
Gotcha.
you know.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Also,
agree with that to some degree.
okay. I do believe too the things we've been talking about is contextual based upon the woman's age. Because I have noticed that women at different age ranges want different things and act totally different versus, you know, a 21, 22-year-old versus a 26, 27-year-old, or even a 28-year-old. Have you noticed that too?
I have definitely, yeah. And I think that a lot of times, especially younger women, and you'd probably have more experience on this since you've studied the look side of attraction a lot deeper than I have. It seems as if, from what I've seen, younger women will gravitate more towards looks is the highest dominating factor of what they will determine if they're going to start to invest in a guy sexually or emotionally.
Especially how you meet the guy too. So dating apps, for example, you know, I feel based on what you're talking about, at least a front end game perspective is based on the context you're meeting her in real life versus on a dating app or Instagram. Something, you know.
Right, right. And as women age, slowly other things play a bigger factor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one thing also within the manosphere is the whole high value man concept. I watched a few of your videos, and you believe that most guys get the idea of what's a high value man completely wrong. Is that right?
Yeah, it depends how you look at it. So I say there's two different versions of high value, right? There's high value in the eyes of a man, and there's high value in the eyes of a woman. So high value in the eyes of a man, they look at like the status metrics on paper. So like, oh, I make $1 million a year. I'm 6'5". I'm 220 pounds jacked with a six pack, and I have 1 million Instagram followers, so I'm gonna just slay. And like, what they forget to realize is that while those things are attractive, those things don't do anything to make a woman feel right. So that's where what a woman looks at a lot of times is, how socially captivating is he, right? Can he, like, is he the social leader of a group? How does he make me feel? What are the things that he says to me? Women fall in love through words. Words is a woman's biggest weakness. What are the things that he's saying to me? How is he talking to me? Is he talking to me right? Is he getting me to open up? You know, And that's where guys need true quote unquote red pilling experiences. Like, it's not until you're a dude who's high value on paper and you watch a loser at a bar wheel your woman and then fuck her same night. Like, that's where guys need to understand this, that you can stack yourself all you want on paper. A lot of times you get tested harder. She's going to say, well, why do you need all that muscle mass? Are you insecure? Why do you need to make 200 grand a month? Is it because you feel like you're not good enough compared to all the other men? I've watched high value guys get tested harder. I've watched sometimes high value guys, they get put through the ringer and they got more hoops to girls making them jump through because she's trying to figure out, why is he like this? So you'll gain the respect of men. Dude, a lot of times with women I've seen, especially if a guy leads with that, I'm on my purpose, I do self-improvement, I'm so cool, look at me. She starts to poke at that for insecurity. And if you're leading with that, because a woman falls in love with the inside. That's why I gave the quote Patrice O'Neill, right? Women fall in love through the top down. She starts to poke at that and she says, well, why do you need all these things? Why are you that way? Right? Her subconscious is going, do you need this because there's a deficit internally that you have as a man that you're compensating for? That's what I've found.
So in terms of those male viewing metrics of what's high value, it seems like those directly correlate to a guy's tangible sexual market value. So how much money he makes, his status. So you don't believe that a guy's SMV on paper correlates to their dating results and success in real life? If they were to lead with that?
No. In fact, I think it will hold you up and it will be a detriment. Bro, think of it this way, Austin. If me and you, let's say me and you want to go crash a wedding right now. And we're both single and we want to go win over some women, right? We want to meet girls. We'll dress up, we'll wear the suit or we'll wear the wedding attire like everybody. You walk into that bar, that club, that party, she has no idea how much money you make and she doesn't fucking care. She don't know your social status and she doesn't care, right? She's judging by what you put in front of her. And she's going to judge your value in that social setting based on how are you winning the friends over? How are the other men responding to you? She's looking at the social nuances of how captivating is this guy, right? When this guy speaks, do the other men listen, right? Women are social creatures. They're looking for that leader in real life. So if me and you want to go crash a wedding, a lot of the shit that we've told ourselves, like, oh, we're entitled to these girls now because on paper, look how cool we are. Bro, a lot of times when you get right into the weeds of it, you go out to a bar or club, we want to go crash a wedding, we want to go meet women, that stuff goes right out the window. And all you got is this. Verbally, where are you at to win her over, to make her feel something? So I think guys make themselves jump through hoops and they tell themselves they're constantly not ready to get a date. They're constantly not ready to get a girlfriend because they think they're not good enough, when in actuality, those things may help them be more attractive. But women, my point I'm trying to make this is women look at deeper level characteristic traits for what makes up this man as a whole.
Yeah. I've noticed that too. Once again, going into the how you're meeting the girl in real life versus like an online dating app, right?
Yeah.
In real life, you got your looks to go off of, your mouthpiece, like you said. But outside of that, a woman can't see there's not a social status number above your head unless you're in a contextual environment to where it's obvious that you have a level of status. Example, you walk in a club and the DJ greets you, you're at the top of a section, you got girls around you, like that can represent status. But if you're in the context of going to a wedding, crashing a wedding, like you don't have that much leverage or things to go off of.
Yeah.
The things you just said,
Well, let me ask you a personal question. To you, what's more important? Do you want the girl to have sex with you, or do you want the girl's 100% love, admiration, and you want her to adore you through and through?
I think initially what's more important is getting the sex, because with me personally, I know that will come after that later, based on my experience in dating strategies. And sometimes I don't want that. It depends on the woman that I'm dealing with. Sometimes I just see a woman as a fun time, and I hope she doesn't get invested and attached to me, even though some cases it still happens, right?
Right. Of course.
That's another issue you got to deal with, is getting rid of women, which is an advanced level of game.
The stragglers.
Yeah. But that's awesome, man, in terms of the high value man sort of perception that you have with that. So
yeah, can I layer in one more point to that?
Please.
So this is a real life experience. And here's another thing, like I disagree with. You'll see certain, I won't say names, but we'll all know. You'll see certain podcasts, and they go, "So what do you look for in a guy?" And the girl goes, "Ambition, passion." And the host will typically go, "Translation, he has to have money." And it's like, yes, but no. Like, you're not fully listening to her. When I say, I'm going to keep stressing this as hard as I can until guys understand this. When these women are saying, "I want ambition, I want to see passion, I want to see drive," this is why I keep stressing, and I believe this to the core. Women fall in love with the internal. So to women, that makes up personality, and it's nothing to do with the money. She wants to see, and yes, eventually you want to have the fruits of your labor pay off. She wants to see you're successful. But when these women are saying these things, "I want to see passion, I want to see ambition," they're being truthful. And here's how I've had real life experiences with this too. A couple of years ago, when I was dating a woman, the highest level of genuine desire that I've seen in my relationships was when I was fully obsessed with what I was doing in my craft, fully invested in my passion, fully on my purpose, would be so indulged into that it was like it consumed me, and they get very attached to that and addicted to it, because it's like, okay, this guy's into something makes up this guy's drive, this guy's personality. I was making a 10th of the level of my income that I am today, maybe even a 20th back then. As I've grown my brand and my business, and I have business consistency, I didn't need that same fire at certain points that I had back then. I notice a decrease. I know, as I dated women over the years, I would notice a decrease in the captivation aspect, or in how captivating I was at certain points the longer I got to know a woman. And that's why they're equally important. Do you need the money and do you need the success to come with it as you work? Absolutely, of course, because women are survival creatures and they want to see that. But to make a woman feel emotionally, on these podcasts, these women are being truthful. Yes, she does want to see personality. She wants to see passion. She wants to see ambition. It's two sides of the coin.
Gotcha. So before we get into the back end game and characteristics to retain a woman long term,
Mm-hmm.
on the front end perspective, what would you say are just maybe the top three things a guy who has no clue on how to attract women should work on in order to meet and attract more women?
Yeah, on the front end, you're saying.
On the front end, yeah.
That's my favorite specialty to talk about. Number one, can you play games? And I'll explain what that means in a second. I also need to write this down on my phone, so if I go on a tangent, I don't forget this as I type this. So number one, let's go
Go ahead.
through this here. Okay, number one, can you play games? I'll explain what that means in a second. Number two, can you create fantasy? Number three, can you make her smile, laugh, giggle, or get the
Spark
friend?
emotion.
Yes, spark emotion, and get the friends to like you. So this is important in all aspects, because to women, guys' brains are so logical that when you hear the word leader, they think an army general. They think someone who lays down the law. To a woman with attraction on the front end, it's about who is leading her emotions. This is why dominating a room socially is so important, or this is why being a guy who's captivating is important. Here's how I explain this. Front end game and back end game. Front end game is Conor McGregor. Back end game is Khabib. In the front end, they need, I don't want to say that loudmouth, but they need that guy who's taking social risks. They need an aggressor. Masculinity in and of itself is assertive. She needs to see that you have power. And I'll explain what that means in a second. Back end is Khabib. This is where you need rule, regimen, order. She needs to see that she's coming into your world. If you reverse these, you lose the girl. If you demonstrate these at the wrong time, you lose the girl. If you show Khabib game on the back end, when you just met the girl, you're going to run the risk of being boring. If you're dating a girl and you're constantly in front end game, Conor McGregor style, she's going to go, when is he ever going to grow up? Okay, so they're both very important. The three things that you have to do on the front end. Number one, let's start with playing games. You go to a bar or a club, you're out with friends. How do you play a game? One of the things I do here where I live, we have the Missouri River. So it's popular. Everyone goes on boats. We go on sandbars. I'm good at thumb war, so I play to my strength. There was one time I went out, I thumb warred, and here's how good I was. I had half a bottle. I go, if I beat you in thumb war, you have to take a shot. If you beat me in thumb war, I have to drink the whole bottle. That's how confident I was in that. That's how good I am at thumb war. So I start pinning. I went 19 in a row before I lost one. I lost one against like an old dude. It's like 45. Those games, what do? She's giggling. There's touch with the thumb war. She's entered my frame. She's playing my game. I'm leading how the rules are going to go. She's smiling. By the end, she takes a shot. By the end of it, her friend asks for one too. Learn how to play games. When you got, a lot of times guys would read books like Mystery Method. Okay. So when he's doing things like, let's say, magic or palm reading, the essence of it is he's playing a game. Okay. He's getting her engaged in something. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, in terms of the approach playing the game, is that how you approach a woman? Like, hey, let's play a thumb war? Or is it more like a soft opener, then you lead to playing the games?
I think a lot of those questions guys ask are irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Women go off vibe, vocals, nuance, energy. Hey, ladies, let's play a game. Hi, girls, want to play a game? Want to make a bet? I bet I can beat you in thumb war. Hey, let's do this. It doesn't matter. You start to lay it down. She sees how your personality is. Her and her friends will choose if they give you the green flag thumbs up or the red flag thumbs down. But the openers and what guys get fixated on, I think, is irrelevant, because past that 5 seconds, it's like, okay, if you're at a bar, a club, a house party, you meet a woman and her friends out at a social event, you're going to have to sit there for probably 20 to 30 to 45 minutes. You're going to have to get to know the group. That's why it's important, if you go out with friends, you need other guys who are game aware. You need guys who know how to be social and are not awkward. Mm-hmm. So I know that was gray area, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Play games, play thumb war.
Play games, play thumb. Yeah. Pick your strengths, right? Mm-hmm. Pick your strengths, you know. The games are important. I was dude, another game. So I went out a week, or not even a week, 2 days ago on Saturday. I go out, I run into my sister. She's younger. She's 22. She's with all of her friends. I mean, I instantly I started giving her like my card, because I'm the older brother. I take care of her, so I'm buying her drinks. She buys her friends drinks. The running joke was I'm the sugar daddy. You know, it not even that I'm trying to game the friends, but the joke, then the game that I'm playing is Casey's big daddy. Casey's sugar daddy. Call me sugar daddy. You know what I'm saying? You're getting them to laugh. You're getting them to buy into a game. Guys, I think a lot of times lose their childlike innocence that you had when you were 12, 13, 14 years old, to laugh and to have fun.
Gotcha. So you would not recommend an approach, for example, hey, my name is so-and-so. I thought you're really, really beautiful. You know.
No, I wouldn't.
Gotcha.
Some guys like that. I have a friend personally who likes that approach. He relies more on the look side of things too. I do. I'm sure you'd agree with this too. Depending on how the guy looks, you can probably get away with certain things, can't you?
Yeah. If you're more attractive, you can definitely break more rules.
Yeah. So I personally wouldn't. There's some guys who may like that style. You know, I'm a big believer too. Game is not a one size fits all thing.
True.
You know, every man is like, okay, I believe God made every man as an individual. You're going to have to find your God-given personality. You'll watch this. There's a big influencer for a while. It was Dan Bilzerian. Everyone wants to act like him. When it was Tate for a while, you got everyone talking like this. And it's the Tate is the new level of personality you need. A guy has to dive into who they are. And you got to just pour gas on the fire to amplify who you are. So that's what I believe. So that's number one, play games. Number two, fantasy. Women don't see life through the lens of the physical like men do. Women's whole world is emotion. Women's whole world is how they feel. And I don't even think men understand like how deep that goes. how they feel dictates every decision that they do in the physical logically. So they see the world, how I describe it is men have the blue kaleidoscope lens that they see the world through, women have the pink one. You will never know how she views the world fully. You just have to do your best to try to understand. When it comes to the front end, everything needs to be fantasy. Everything needs to be stimulating her imagination. Everything needs to be play, right? You can slowly introduce, if you even want to call it toxicity, you know, it, okay, here's an example, fantasy. So then guys are like, how do you introduce the words that might lead to sex, right? If I pin a girl in thumb war, pussy, give pinned her, pussy ass, you know what I'm saying? Those are the words. Then, so that fantasy, look what that does. You played a game, you're introducing fantasy and play pretend. Now you might be using words, language, sparks emotion, is a little bit on the side of like, ooh, did he really just say that? Okay, the fantasy, women don't want to talk anything logical. If you're going out to bars, clubs, parties, and you're worried at all about occupation, what she's majoring in, what she's doing for a living, they don't give a fuck. They don't want to talk about that. They don't care. And that's why, so guys hear this and they're like, wait, so you're telling me like I have to actually learn how to be fun? Like you're telling me like I can't just be boring as a motherfucker and go out and act like these chicks should just like me because I have a six pack? Like, no, you can't. You have to actually be stimulating and not locked into adult logical mode because she ain't in that mode either.
True. Keep it lighthearted and fun.
Yeah,
Simple as
lighthearted
that.
and fun. It has to be. And this is what sucks about a lot of dating content, and this is what sucks about a lot of gurus on the internet, is when they give advice, they fail to talk about the sequence of timeline for when you're with the woman. So let me give you an example. You will hear guys on the internet say, be stoic. You're not supposed to smile at her. If you're smiling at her and laughing, you're breaking what?
Frame.
Frame. Yes. But what the guy fails to realize to talk about is where you're at in that interaction with that girl. Are you at the first date? Are you at the first meetup at the bar when she's with 3 friends? Are you dating her for 6 months? Something like that. Yeah, if you're giggly and playful and you're not solid in boundaries, yes, very important, but only in the back end if she sees you as a potential companion and you guys are dating. On the front end, because you asked, how do you win a woman over on the front end? If you don't see a smile, if you don't see giggle, if you don't see her face up like this with teeth showing, she don't like you yet. She needs to engage in play, in laughter, childlike innocence. She needs to have some sort of feeling towards you. If she smiles, the friends will start to smile. Friends start to smile, win over the whole group. You can choose to sleep with her. You can choose to get her number. This will probably be a potential girlfriend if you play your cards right.
All right, so we talk about front end game. Now let's get into something that you talk about quite deeply, and that is the back end perspective. Now, one thing that's once again taught within the red pill is to some degree of not being the quote unquote nice guy, having a little bit of toxicity, as you stated before, being a bit mysterious. How do you believe guys should be within, let's say, a new long term relationship is like 2 to 3 months? How should a guy act in order to retain that high interest within his woman? Should he be a little toxic? Should he be a little narcissistic? What do you think?
This all depends on your goals and what you want out of the relationship, and it also depends if the guy wants to get married and have a family one day or just where he's at. If this is a temp girlfriend that you're filling hot air and space with for a year and she's had bodies, yeah, fuck it and throw in some chaos. She needs to get left on red a time or two. She needs to have a 12-hour sequence time delay where maybe your phone was off, maybe it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? But from the most part, so how do guys keep the relationship? Being able to lead her physically, being able to lead her emotions, being able to lead her spiritually, and having not even boundaries. She needs to look at you as some sort of authority figure to be the leader, if you think of who a woman would look up to or who a woman takes like let's say orders from, growing up when she's an adolescent, her father. Okay, growing up at school, it's her teachers, principal, right? It's when she's working, it's the boss or who's in charge. If you are not taking on that energy, father figure authority role, the man who commands stability and order in the household, the man who has peace and stoicism, the man who, when she is fucked up on her period, can not engage in those haywire emotions with her and you can remain stern. If you are not that man, you're losing her. You will lose her.
Hmm. Gotcha.
Polar opposite skill stack from how you attracted her on the front end.
Yeah. So it sounds like more so just being grounded and not falling victim to her emotions and not being emotional back, leading her in those three spheres, as you said. You said physical,
Physical,
spiritual.
emotional, spiritual. I had a program for a long time where it was for guys who are on the brink of divorce. I'm not actively running it right now, but I've had like a lot of husbands in it, and a lot of guys I helped them actually save their marriage. I have a theory on this that, and granted, everything's opinion, right? Red pills opinion, blue pills, like some of it's rooted in evolutionary psychology, but at the end of the day, when you get down to brass tacks, dating advice, who the fuck knows? And everything's a theory. I think everything needs to be battle tested. I wholeheartedly believe, so like this is one part, like I do probably disagree with a lot of the content creators. I do feel there needs to be, if you're going to have a relationship, there needs to be an element of God or of faith at the center of it, because if you don't, a woman is looking for that level of leadership spiritually. um and that's where you can be the most alpha stoic guy, you can try to be as commanding with frame as you want. If you don't nurture that side of her heart, I have found that there's oftentimes something missing. And the reason why women get so invested in, I'm a Capricorn, the reason why women love numerology, reason why women love astrology, their heart is seeking masculine leadership in the element of faith.
Hmm.
Right. And what I have found is if that is not there, the relationship may last 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. A lot of times she can't even put her words to it, but she knows there's something missing. Backend game, you have to really be a masculine man.
Hmm.
You can't bend in your principles. And the biggest thing with backend game is identity. That's why the concept of backend game, why I love like Khabib as the archetype or the role model for that so much, is like strict Muslim, you cannot take that away from him. Fighter through the core, you cannot take that away from him. Family is number one, you cannot take that away from him, right? He knows himself. Where guys get fucked up on the back end is she sees you have a flexible identity. She sees who you are can change. She sees who you are can bend and break. You start to acquiesce and you make concessions that are against who you are as a man. That flexible identity and those flaws in personality, she starts to poke at. She sees, how deep can I go? Right? Can I convince him that the sky is green instead of blue? That's where guys get fucked up on the back end. So physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Gotcha. And another aspect of back in game, have you heard of dread game or basically competition anxiety?
I have, but I know what competition anxiety is.
Essentially, if you're in a long-term relationship, it's the idea that you maintain attractiveness towards other women, and she
Mm-hmm.
actively sees that you're desired constantly by other women, which then makes her more invested into the relationship versus a guy who gets comfortable, loses his attractiveness slowly over the course of time, you
Yep.
know. So would you
Yeah,
believe in it?
100%. So here's the thing. How you met the girl is how you need to stay. So here's where guys fuck up too, is they create a different lifestyle with the woman than the one that she came into. So if you met her through going out and she saw you were the me and you're playing thumb war fucking around with everyone, Right. And if you're that guy and you're attractive and you're captivating, the problem is guys will disregard that completely. So you got to remember, a woman wants to come into the world that you brought her into. So if guys start neglecting all of the stuff that made them, they run the risk of being boring. So yes, if you go out with your girl, she, you still want her to see you have the social skills you did from day one. You can still captivate the room you could with day one. Um, Other women see that spark and that passion you have for life and the soul that you bring to the table, and it makes you attractive. So yes, dread or competition anxiety needs to be there, because if not, dude, eventually at the end of the day, every relationship, you're going to be sitting there on the couch eating enchiladas. I don't care how high value you are. I don't care if you're a billionaire. Eventually, you're going to be sitting there scratching your balls, eating enchiladas, watching the TV occasionally. If she gets boring, if she gets bored and she's complacent and she's like, this guy doesn't have what I thought he did like he did day one, that relationship will be over.
But sometimes, too, I'm not sure if you heard this theory also, but a lot of women change their man slowly over the course of time by the act of quote unquote betazization. Have you heard of that concept? Basically, a woman, change. Let's say you're living together. She controls rules of the house. You start complying based upon her frame and what she wants you to do. Slowly over time, making herself lose attraction in you, but she's the one who initiated that in the first place.
Yeah, I that's what I like with that. Like, to me, that is original sin in and of itself. That is hypergamy. That is the snake. That is Adam and Eve. Eve
Mm-hmm.
says, follow my lead. You can eat it. You're good. Trust me. God called upon Adam and said, what the fuck, dude? Wake the fuck up. I told you to lead her. It's a woman's nature to take your lead. It's a woman's nature to do that. She can't help it even. She ain't trying to make you acquiesce. That is her nature. So, like, to me, as I've gotten older and the deeper I go into this, faith is important to me, because what I see hypergamy is in some way, shape, and form, like that example, that is original sin to me. And original sin is listening to your wife. Original sin is listening to that girl, because she will lead you to hell if you let her. If you listen to your woman, she will lead you to the gates of fucking hell. Straight up.
Yeah.
And it's her job to bring you there. It is her job to bring you there. That is how she's wired. If she has tits and an ass, her job is to get your ass to hell right there with her. Your job is to say, no, my way.
My way or the highway, comply or
My
get
way.
by.
Yeah. Yeah, my way. You have to do it my way. If you don't do it my way, this relationship will fail. If she wants to be a bitch about it, you say, door's right there. You know what? You go let her take a drive through the town and go get a fucking white mocha or a strawberry refresher at Starbucks. Her ass will ring that doorbell in 30 minutes and come back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought about it and I want you again. Yeah, I bet you do.
That's the idea of being, once again, grounded in yourself as a man, and holding true to your boundaries, whoever those may be for you. And I think leadership should be like the number one boundary in every relationship long term.
It
Of
has
course.
to be. It has to be.
One thing, a part of long term relationships too, uh, sometimes women tend to do what's called a pullback, where
Mm-hmm.
she seems to be not investing as much as she used to. Maybe doesn't send that good morning text like she used to.
Yeah.
Just overall, her energy has shifted and changed, but she's not fully leaving the relationship just yet. She's just not as invested. What do you
Mm-hmm.
believe some of the main reasons as to why women do that? Is it the guy's fault primarily, or is it something
Mm.
that's inevitable?
I believe it's due to not setting stipulations prior to the relationship. So women only know what you put in front of them. Women don't know how to be. So here's the other fucked up thing about, not fucked up thing, but men are logical. So we only see through the blue kaleidoscope lens. And we're so logical, we go, well, okay, let me give you an example. So, Austin, I take you out next week and I buy you a beer. The next week, what are you going to want to do for me?
Reciprocate and buy you a beer back.
Reciprocate and buy me a beer back, because that's natural. You're like, well, if I did this, she should do this. If I behave this way, she should just naturally know to behave this way. If you go into relationships thinking that way, you're ignoring the essence of masculinity, which is leading in the first place. Women need to know prior to getting in the relationship with you what your expectation is. So if you say, hey, if you pull back or if you do this shit to cause tension, then you're going to be lower on my priority list, and this relationship will probably dissolve because you're not the woman that I want. So I think a lot of these issues can be avoided by having clear-cut expectations of what you desire and deserve out of a woman. And if you can verbally express that, then it's about having the masculinity and stoicism and fortitude, where if she still presses those buttons anyways, you stick to what you said. Your actions match your words on the back end is important. So I think a lot of the stuff like pullbacks or she's acting a certain way, I think a lot of that comes from not having clear-cut expectations of what her duty is as the girlfriend or wife coming into it.
A lot of women, it's just their personalities kind of, I want to say initiate them to act like that, but how can I phrase this? Their personalities basically aren't ideal to that of a long-term girlfriend, and the guy doesn't know that because he didn't vet the woman initially before he got into that that long-term relationship, and he's learning more deeper things, a part of her personality that don't align with a truly feminine sort of catering, nurturing sort of woman, and he learns that later. So deeper into that, do you believe in the vetting period, like a guy should sort of make a woman earn his commitment throughout the course of time, or are you the type of guy where you believe in just giving out the relationship within 2-3 months? And a lot of girls expect that too.
Yeah, it depends on where you're at as a man and how quickly you can replace her at that same attraction level. But for the most part, I would say yes, you have to make the woman earn the commitment. If she's not bringing up questions to you like, is this all for sex? Do you see this going somewhere? If, would you ever consider me as a long-term partner? Right? Though you're in the step in the right direction. The magic one is if you, okay, so here's how I define this. Men communicate overtly, women communicate covertly. Okay? Front end game, you had to indulge in the language of the feminine. You had to play. You had to communicate covertly. Okay? So you indulged in the land of the feminine to hook that woman and to attract her. If she wants that man, she now has to engage in the language of the masculine and communicate overtly like we do. Will you be my boyfriend? If you get her to that breaking point, you, my friend, have fucking won. So I know that was long-winded too, but that's kind of my runaround answer with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And personally, I believe that a long-term relationship, the foundation of it, you cannot deal with any of these problems, though they could happen, but more than likely not happen if you set up everything as it's supposed to be in the front end, in the front end game.
Right.
So ideally, getting a woman who falls within your frame off bat, off rip, somebody who is has that genuine desire, somebody who doesn't test a lot. And I feel like a lot of these things are just basically personality characteristics. They're reciprocating, they're naturally feminine, etc.
Now, women dealing with any man in the long term, women from time to time are always going to get bitchy. Like that's inevitable. The spot where guys go wrong is they try to fix her emotion, or they nurture that emotion, or they try to change it. They try to coddle her. They try to make her feel better. You're now engaging in her frame. She will lose desire for you. A simple, you know what, you come back to me when you're ready to behave correctly. That will do far more for a man than trying to fix what you think she's wanting.
Gotcha. Now, Casey, I have a list here. It's the things that guys think are attractive but subconsciously turn women off. And I want to see if you agree with these three things.
All right, hit
All
me.
right. So the first one is attention. The second one is commitment. The third one is chivalry.
Chivalry. Say it again. These are things that men think are attractive but turn them off.
But subconsciously turn women off. Attention, commitment, chivalry. I know depends based on where you're at in terms of the interaction, but what do you think?
It all depends on her value level for you as a man. So attention Attention turns them off if your attention is valueless. Commitment turns them off if your commitment is valueless. Chivalry turns them off if it's valueless and you're the nice guy pushover. So it's more about who are you as a man? Does she respect you? And that's why like identity and having a fixation within who you are is so important. So like you know, like your building of the Austin brand, you are the attraction guy or the attractive guy, or you have a persona, and she needs to be able to label you, right? So whether she labels you as NFL star quarterback, the YouTube guy, you know, me, I'm the whiteboard presentation guy, whatever it is, she needs to have a fixation of who you are, where you're respected in who you are and what you do. So chivalry, attention, commitment turns them off if those things are valueless as a man of what you're bringing to the table.
Gotcha. So it's all really based upon how much she respects you and the value she sees within you.
Bingo.
Gotcha. Okay. So you don't think that there's a degree of a guy can do that too much? For example, if a guy is, because a lot of those things we discuss are basically rooted within the nice guy syndrome, right? I
Mm-hmm.
believe you can be kind, but you
Yeah.
obviously don't want to be like a nice guy, a pushover.
Right.
So you don't believe a guy can do too much of this? For example, a guy in a long term relationship, he's the one who sends the good morning text and the good night text every day. She
Mm-hmm.
never initiates contact. He's the one who uh, provides the most value to her, but she doesn't necessarily provide a lot of value back. He's taking her out on dates, picking her up, the nice car, opening the door. She shows up, looks pretty, is respectful, is feminine,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's pretty much it. She doesn't add value to his life,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, you can definitely overdo it. And that's why like game awareness of who's in whose frame is important. Once there is commitment, the majority of all of that work should be coming from her, because that's how she wants it anyways. Like a guy has to just make this simple too. You got to look yourself in the mirror and say, is a grown ass man gonna send a fucking good morning kiss baby emoji text? I mean, just picture a caveman, picture a lumberjack, picture a warrior, picture whatever the fuck you want. Stare in the mirror and say, would a man's man do this? If a guy can answer that question yes or no, typically he'll get the right answer for himself when he's dating a chick.
That's
You
a good
know,
visualization technique. Would a man's
yeah.
man do this what I'm about to do right now? The answer is no, I probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah, so let her. Okay, men build the physical world. Men want to. You want to build your business, build your body, build who you are, build the exterior. Let women build the interior. Let women build the land of emotion. Let them build the soul of the relationship. They're better at it anyways. Let her say good morning, baby. Let her say love you so much. Let her come to that, because she needs something to build too. You know, just like we're building our brands, our bodies, our personality, whoever the hell we are, she wants to build something too. She wants to work on something too, but she wants to build the internal. She
Mhm.
wants to build her relationship. Women are relationship builders.
Now, I've been in scenarios like this where I never send a good morning text, like literally ever. But I might at once every 3 months. But
Yeah.
over time, the woman starts to complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you never send me good morning. But
Right.
she'll still do it the next day, but still complain to me about it. Do you
Uh
believe?
huh.
I personally feel like this is a positive thing because to some degree it does stir up a bit of turmoil, quote unquote, without everything being so perfect within the relationship. How do you feel about that? Like, if a woman was complaining to you that you're not doing these things, that
Mm-hmm.
would probably turn her off, even though she doesn't know that for the course of time. How do you handle that?
I think the best way that a guy has to analyze it is by asking himself, is this normal or not? So, like, I'll give you an example. If you're dating a girl consistently for 6 months and she says morning every time and you've never said it ever, she's going to get a sense of this isn't normal. There's something abnormal here. So I think a way that a guy can analyze these questions and make the best bet for himself is saying, number one, would a man's do this? If I picture a warrior, is this would he do this? The second thing though is then ask yourself, if I don't do some of these things occasionally, is this super abnormal where it looks like I'm playing games trying to be a tryhard? Okay. The third thing then is I would say, hey, you got to be game aware, just like you said. If you do too much of this that she's asking for, this will turn her off because it's the woman's job to try to get you to follow her lead. The second you follow her lead is the second she ends that fucking relationship. So it's in her nature to try to get you to break. It's in her nature to try to get you to fuck up. It's in her nature to give herself every reason to say, I'm going to dissolve this relationship and go fishing in a different pond.
Mm-hmm.
It's in her nature to leave.
Yeah. Basically rooted in, once again, don't fall within her frame, stay grounded, and allow her to stay within yours over a long course of time. That's really it.
A guy could watch all your videos. A guy could watch all my videos. You need blood, sweat, tears, years, trials, and tribulations in the weeds to figure this shit out. Like, a guy cannot just watch videos, have the captivating or confident personality that he wants, and master this. You need to go out and date. Guys need reps. You need reps and reps and reps. You need a couple failed relationships. Every man needs to go through heartbreak 1, 2, 3 times. Every guy needs to know what it's like to go to a bar or to a club or to a house party, get rejected, have every girl there think you're weird, and still go home and realize the sun will come up the next day. Right? It's the issues that fortify the man. And
Absolutely.
you can't just like ignore that. Every man needs reps. Just like building your body in the gym, right? It takes reps, it takes consistency, it takes a decade of training. To make yourself a man, especially in the eyes of a woman, is going to take that same sort of reps.
I think on that note, we can end it off here, man. That was a great discussion on front end, back end game, long term relationships. Where can they find you at?
I'm most active on YouTube. It's just my name, Casey Zander. I'm not super active on any other socials. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I guarantee I'll post once every 18 months. So yeah, I mean, YouTube is my main spot where I give guys dating content and dating advice.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll be sure to check them out. Great videos, great long form discussions on some of the deeper things we talked about in this podcast. And I'll leave a link down below. Thank you guys
Awesome.
for watching. See you guys in the next one. Peace.